Hey guys, in today's video I'm going to show you the basics of the mesh tool and also gradients in general. So for reference, the image that I'm going to use is this one. I found it on Unsplash and you can probably find it too, but I can add the link if you want in the description. Step 1, add your background. Step 2, add a circle in between. Make sure that you have an orange color added to the circle afterwards. Next, we're going to use the linear gradient tool and add a linear gradient on the ball. Make sure that you match your reference. So we're going to start with a really light yellow or orange on the top, dark orange for the middle, and at the bottom a reddish orange. Next, we're going to duplicate this circle, decrease the opacity, make it pale yellow, and put it on top of the original circle, and then put it also on a different layer. Then lock the bottom layer so you don't touch the circle at the bottom. And then now we use the gradient mesh tool and add points on the ball. Once you're happy with the number of points that you've added, select the lasso tool, and I would increase the opacity of the whole thing. Then select the lasso tool again and then decrease the opacity of any of the points in the middle to 0. Just trust me on this. Make sure that the edges that you have on the ball have a full 100% opacity. If you want, you can decrease it a bit if you think the opacity on the edges is too harsh, to 60 or 70. But at the any points in the middle, just make it 0 for now. And what we're going to do with the mesh tool, we're going to start adding all the different colors to different points one by one and try to match the shape as best as possible. So starting at the bottom, increase the opacity of this point, then the point next to it as well, increase the opacity. And this looks a bit too harsh and doesn't match the image. So what I'm going to do here is decrease the opacity of these 2 points to 60. And then for any other point that I'm going to add on this illustration, I'm going to keep the opacity to 60 because that's what I think matches my reference the best. But choose whichever thing works for you. Now here, what we're gonna do is try and match our original reference the best as possible. Just remember these 2 rules. When the points are close, the edges will be sharper. When the points are away, the edges will be softer. And then use that to your advantage when making your mesh. Okay? So here, as you can see, I've added more points around the original points that I've created to see if that will match my reference better or not. So as you can see here, it didn't match it well, so I'm gonna put it back to 60 or 50 and then move it down to make a curved shape as in the original reference. I will decrease the opacity of the bottom edge to 0 to replicate a shadow at the bottom, and then I'm gonna add a highlight bit on top to represent where the light is coming from. Next I'm gonna do is replicate the light falling on the ball, on the top edge of the ball as in the reference, and I'm going to select all the points onto the top edge, which is the closer to the original edge of the ball, and increase the opacity. Okay, now once you have increased the opacity, now you can move the points around to replicate the shape that you have created. Here we want to create a curved shape on the ball. Another way to do this and make your curves a bit more seamless is to decrease the number of points that you have. And here I have deleted one of the lines just because I felt like it didn't match my reference as well and it was making my geometry a bit too complicated. Next what I'm going to do is use the points that I already have and use the curve tool on each point to match my shape as best as possible. So you can see in the image there's a curve at the bottom and then you can see it going up on the left hand side. So that's what we're going to do. And similarly you can see that the curve starts off from the top, goes down towards the right side, comes around down to the bottom, and then goes up. So that's what we're going to do here, is use the different points on our mesh to create that kind of seamless curvature look. And what you can do is move your points around, and especially use your curve tool to give it these indent like curves. Instead of using multiple points, make sure that you move your points around your mesh. It might look a bit messy, but don't worry about it too much, okay? We're gonna rasterize the image anyway when we finish up, so it doesn't matter where the curves are, unless you really want your curves to look clean. I just don't worry about it too much. I just move the points and see what works best for me. And as you can see, when I move the points away from other points, the lines become softer and it becomes a lot more easier to handle the shape of my design. Again, here what we're doing is moving the curves around to create a wave-like texture on the bottom. And then if you move it a bit up and then move to 2 points above this a bit up as well, it increases the distance of the points, making your curves look a lot softer. Now if they were a lot closely packed, then they would look a lot more harsh, and the lines would be a lot sharper as well. So if that is the kind of look that you want to go for, add more points to your mesh. If not, keep your mesh as simple as possible and use the curves on your mesh to the best of your abilities to get the shape right. On the highlight bit, I also added a linear gradient. I added that just so it looks seamless on a gradient, and eventually I will use a Gaussian blur on it to match the soft gradient mesh that we have around it. Similarly here, I've added a line to give the right hand edge a bit more structure and shape. When I move them closer to each other, you can see the lines get more defined. And at the bottom part, I've completely decreased the opacity to 0 to give it a curvy look. And as you can see, now that I'm moving the point on top, we're getting like a curved look on the top as well that would match the shape of the ball and showcase the way the light is hitting on the curvature as a whole. Once you have all these curved aligned well, you will see that your curve looks a lot more seamless compared to originally when the curve looked a bit more drastic and also looked a bit more abrupt on your ball. Just like a point on top, you can see that it's not completely seamless, and that's because I still haven't got around to fixing the curve at that point. So the curve, when your curves align, you will get a really nice seamless circular shape on top. Similarly, if you want to create indents, what I like to do is to extend out the points and make the curve shapes through that instead of adding more points on my design. Keeps the geometry more clean and makes it easier for you to handle any of the points if in case you want to change them in the future. The next thing I'm going to do is add a base light, add a base shadow underneath the ball. And here again, I'm going to use the elliptical tool. Once I'm happy with this, the positioning and the curve and the shape, I'm going to change the color to light brown or dark brown, and then we're going to work from there. Next thing I'm going to do is now add points on my shadows. Not too many, just enough. Now in this one, we're going to do the opposite of what we did before. Using the lasso tool, I will select all the points on the outermost part of the shape, which is the edges. Once I selected the edges, I will try to match the color as closely as possible to the background, because I want it to seem like the colors are blending well on the inside. Okay, so really light brown, but it also matches, but it also looks pretty seamless to the background color. And don't worry about it too much. We're going to use the Gaussian blur tool to make them come together really nice and seamlessly. We're going to start from the bottom again. Start off by using the bottom 3 points select those and then add and then change the color to a light brown color. Similarly to the next 3 points on top, I'm gonna add a color which matches the original brown but a bit darker. Next, the point above, I'll move it down to get that curvature look that we have in our reference. Now, without increasing any more points, I'm going to use the curves of these points to make my shape as closely as possible to the original reference. I just don't want to increase my points if I don't need to. If I can work with the points that I already created, I'm gonna try my best not to increase it anymore, because first, it will make my computer really slow, but second, it just makes it look more like blended in together. Now, at the points which are closest to the ball, we're gonna have bounce light from the ball falling on the floor. So that will be orange, bright orange color. And here again, I'm gonna decrease the drastic colors to something that is a bit more light. So now you can see the curves are coming, the curved oval shape is coming closer and closer to the reference that we have. The only thing I'm going to do, if you haven't added, is add a Gaussian blur on your highlighted part. But if you haven't added, don't worry about it, because now I'm gonna add a Gaussian blur, like only 1 or 2 pixel Gaussian blur to finish off this painting. And that is it. This was a simple tutorial. Let me know if it made sense. I'm still learning how to make these tutorials, but I really want to share the knowledge that I have from so many years working in Adobe Illustrator and even other softwares, if that's what you want to see as well. So let me know what you think, and thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.